Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, students and scholars, teachers and trainers, professors and professionals, those who are listening, watching from the field of English literature, language, grammar especially, our all school students and collegiates belongs to Commerce, Arts, Science and Engineering. The most honorable President Prime Minister Modi ji, respected ministers and doctors, honorable advocates, advertisers, administrators and advisors, reverend fathers and mothers, affectionate sons and daughters, I Dr. Rakesh from USA, heartily cordially welcome all of you. It is really nice time, nice place, nice section. We are appreciating, admiring, praising words of literature. What's the energy, what's the power of word? By listening, definitely you will get a lot of energy in your mind. Dear friends, very simply, how to imagine about the things for speaking, appreciating person, place and thing. One thing that is common, to be imaginative. Describe a time when you needed to use your imagination. You are to think when it was, when you needed to use imagination, how difficult or easy it was, and explain how you felt about it. There are a lot of situations. Firstly, you have to generalize the topic by imagining the words. There are a lot of situations when ingenuity has helped me tackle difficult situations. A few months I had gone to Jammu for an examination, but because of the fog, my train back home got cancelled. So I decided to travel back by bus. The bus dropped me at my city's bus station at about 2 a.m. I had told my parents that I would be coming by bus, but because I had left my flashlight on my phone battery had died. So I couldn't call my parents to pick me up when I reached the bus station. And because of fog, my parents also couldn't estimate when the bus would actually reach my home city. So I was forced to walk back alone at night. At this time, I saw some strangers walking towards me. I felt that their intentions were not right, and I was really worried at that moment. I used my imagination and took out the phone and started talking loudly on the phone. I knew that my phone was dead, but they didn't know that the phone was dead. As they came closer, I started saying that I'm just around the corner. As they heard this, they moved back and used this opportunity to run a nearby 24/7 store. Once inside, I bought the phone from the sales clerk and called my parents, pick me up. The whole time my heart was beating very loudly. It was a very scary situation. On seeing my father and mother, I finally took a huge sign of relief. My father told me that he was really proud of my presence of mind, and a lot of people told me that they wouldn't have been able to think on their feet like I did. Dear friends, related to it, some follow-up questions. Do you think adults can have lots of imagination? I don't think imagination depends upon age. Both children and adults can imagine things. The only thing is that children are not restricted by real world knowledge in their imagination. So children can sometimes imagine completely impossible things. Do you think imagination is necessary for scientists? I think all scientists, all scientific discoveries are about looking at something from a new or different perspective. So imagination is certainly important for scientists. Many would have seen an apple fall from a tree before Newton, but he was the first one to relate it to a horse. What kind of jobs need imagination? I think the biggest field which needs imagination is science. Then another field in which I think is being a fantasy author. A fantasy author basically puts down his imagination on a piece of paper. I think some of the famous fantasy authors like Tolkien or J.K. Rowling are some of the people with an endless imagination. What subjects are helpful for people's imagination? I think literature can be very helpful to develop imagination. I remember reading Alice in Wonderland was so exciting. It was my first time reading a fantasy novel and I just couldn't put it down. After reading each chapter, I used to think about what would happen next, and that in turn was nothing but exercising my imagination. So friends, like this you can imagine your ideas, and our language learning training is basically can be enhanced, polished, improved by going through the imagination. But how to imagine, how to think, it is very important concept of language. Describe a skill that you can teach other people. What it is, how you learnt it, how can you teach others this skill, how do you feel about this skill. During the COVID lockdown, I was stuck at home. So I asked my mother to teach me 3D or origami. A few years ago, my mother had learned 3D origami from the internet. She made these beautiful flower vases and swans with paper pieces. They really looked beautiful and we decorated our house with them. Every time someone visited us, they visited to ask us about how we made them. So last year I asked my mother to teach me 3D origami. I had a lot of free time and so I practiced it. 3D origami is not tough, but there is a learning curve. It takes some time to learn how to fold pieces and give them the 3D form or 3D look. Basically, we fold papers. We fold papers making small pockets in them and the other pieces fit in these pockets. Then nearly any shape can be given to the pieces. So first I would teach anyone how the paper pieces need to be cut and how they need to be folded. Learning how to give shape to the pieces is a lot about practice and experience. I found this part very difficult in the beginning, but now it seems very easy. So I would tell others to be a patient and just keep experimenting. There are also some YouTube videos which have some ideas about different shapes we can make. That's how I made my first few designs, but now I have started experimenting as well. I am really proud of this skill. I don't think I am an expert and I am good enough to get compliments when someone sees the 3D shapes I made. Recently I made an aeroplane and it was one of the most complex designs I have made till now. Dear friends, some follow-up questions, related questions that you are to ask yourself and you are to answer yourself. Question number 1 is, should teachers be funny when they teach? Yes. Your answer should be positively by imagining, by thinking, by saying yes. I think teachers should employ the use of humor while teaching. It lightens the class atmosphere and improves the relationship between students and teachers. In other words, students feel comfortable discussing their doubts and problems with the teachers. However, teachers must learn when to be strict, otherwise it can impact the discipline in the classroom. What qualities should teachers have? Firstly, I think the most important skill that teachers should have is good communication skills. They need to understand how to teach in simple words. Secondly, they should be good observers. They need to be able to pick up the fears and anxieties students have. Only then they can build their confidence. Finally, teaching is about patience. Teachers need to be ready to explain the concept again and again if their students are facing any difficulty. Which do you think are more important, practical skills or academic skills? Practical skills and academic skills have their own importance. I think it depends upon the person's profession. If a person wants to be a teacher, a lawyer, or anything in academics, they need to be an expert in academics. However, in other words like business, communication skills, etc. are more important. Which age group is the best age for learning? I am a strong believer in the fact that there is no age for learning. We can learn anything at any age. And actually, I believe that we should keep learning new skills as it keeps the mind sharp and active. So dear friends, you can imagine and think like describe a skill that you can teach other people. Our next topic is describe a time when you told your friend an important truth. Firstly, you are to think who your friend is. Second is what the truth was. Third is what your friend's reaction was. And fourth is and explain why it was important for you to tell the truth to your friend. I have often thought about the question that whether honesty is the best policy among friends. Some truths are just very uncomfortable to tell, and sharing such truths might also spoil or ruin friendships. However, I also believe that the more uncomfortable the truth, the more important it is to tell them. I am going to talk about a recent event when I told my friend Yatin something uncomfortable. Yatin is one of my closest friends and I love spending time with him. However, he has a bad habit that he sometimes talks very rudely with his parents. Before the COVID times, we used to spend a lot of time outdoors. I hardly visited his house, but in the past year, because of the lockdown, we have been spending a lot of time at his house. This is the first time I noticed that his tone with his parents and especially his mother was very rude. At first, I didn't say anything because I thought it was not my place. But as I saw it happening regularly, I finally decided that I must tell him. So one day I told him that he should talk nicely to his parents. At first, he got very defensive and told me that they also talk rudely to him. He also started listing my shortcomings like I am very bad at sports. In short, he didn't take it well. In fact, after that day, he didn't talk to me for a whole week. But after a week, he came to me and thanked me for telling him to be nice. He also apologized for not talking to me till then. I feel that good friends are not afraid to share uncomfortable truths with each other. Our friends' behaviors are partly our responsibility. Our friends' behaviors are partly our responsibility as well. And in the end, I think our friends is stronger because I told Yatin the truth. He told me that because I was honest about it. He trusts me to guide him well in the future. Dear friends, there are also some follow-up questions related to the topic. Describe a time when you told your friend an important truth. So this topic is also based upon imagination, not on copying, stealing, imitating, downloading, recording and saving, but it is totally based upon your imagination. How do you imagine the words and what reactions you get from inside, then you will try to speak apparently, obviously. Do you think we should tell truth at all times? I don't think telling the truth at all times is a wise choice. I think if the truth does nothing but hurt a person, I think we should avoid telling the truth. How do you know when others are telling the truth? I think it is easy to tell how others are telling the truth from their facial expression. For example, people start sweating or avoiding eye contact when they are lying. However, this might also be sweating due to other reasons, and thus it is not easy to determine if people are indeed lying or just physically uncomfortable. Do you think it is important to win the game or follow the rules? I think the victory would feel hollow if people do not follow the rules. It would not feel that the victory was deserved. So, although the outcome is important, following the rules is even more important. Sometimes people should tell lies. Do you agree? Yes, you should think here, imagine here. Yes, I believe that if the truth serves no purpose but only hurts other people's feelings, we should avoid telling the truth. For example, telling a person just before a party that they don't look good in the dress would just make them uncomfortable and reduce their confidence. Dear friends, our next topic that you have to imagine and think for speaking at least 2 to 5 minutes, for speaking at least 2 to 5 words, for speaking at least 2 to 5 minutes, sentences. So dear friends, it is easy to speak, easy to learn, easy to listen, easy to read and easy to write in one time if we just concentrate upon 2 to 5 words only. How to describe an art exhibition that you visited? First of all, you have to imagine when you saw this exhibition, where the exhibition was held, what was on display, and explain why and explain your impression of the exhibition. So how will you start generalizing the topic here? When I was little, I went to a museum near my hometown to see a painting exhibition. So you are watching, you are observing that when before starting the topic, we just keep in our mind past picture of the important title or term of the topic, then we start speaking. It was a special one-time exhibition to commemorate the struggle of Indian freedom fighters. There were paintings from many different artists, including some world famous ones like Rabindranath Tagore, Raja Ravi Verma and M.F. Hussain. However, all the paintings were on the life of Indian freedom fighters. Some of the paintings showed with their families before they became involved in the freedom struggle, and some paintings depicted them actively protesting or fighting against the British. I think this was intentionally done to highlight the sacrifices that the freedom fighters made for India's independence. Along with each painting, there were labels in Hindi and English describing the context of the paintings. When my parents told me about the exhibition, I wasn't interested and I thought that I would get really bored. But after visiting, I remember thanking my parents for taking me there. One of the paintings, the hanging of Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Sukhdev had a long lasting impact on me. I had read about this incident in my history textbook, but I don't know that all of them were so young when you made this ultimate sacrifice. Moreover, I think reading about something in history books can never compare to the actual experience of seeing it in painted form. I came out with a newfound appreciation of our India's freedom and the people who made it possible. Yes, describe an art exhibition that you visited. Related to that, some other questions and answers that you can imagine by yourself. First question, you have to think, do you like art? You should think, yes, I like art. Art gives us meaning to life. Art is what differentiates us from animals. I like all sorts of art. I I like drawing and painting. I also like performing arts like music and dance. So like this, you can generalizing the topic. You can easily think about the words. Second is, do you think art classes are necessary? Its answer you have to imagine yes, positively. I think art classes are very necessary. Art brings out people's creativity, art perspective, our culture and traditions. Next question that you can imagine and think, how do you think art classes affect children's development? Art classes affect children's development in many ways. Art brings out the hidden creativity of children. Art is a form of communication. People can convey their feelings through art, like through their paintings or through their songs. So like that you can imagine about the word that you are thinking. You can speak at least 2 to 5 minutes, 2 to 5 words and 2 to 5 sentences. What kind of paintings do Indian people like? Indian people like different kinds of paintings. Dear friends, whenever you start speaking about any answer, then you have to just concentrate upon generalizing the word. In fact, from any form of art, from anywhere, sometimes it is related to a culture, sometimes it may be someone's expression of their perspective, sometimes it is social message, and we can also learn about the types of material used to create that work of art. Next question is, what benefits can you get from painting as a hobby? Painting as a hobby can bring out our hidden talent. Painting can relax us. If we have the talent, we can even sell our paintings and earn money. We can also give paintings to loved ones. So all these are the skills that are enhanced by our scholars, Indian scholars and learners. How to describe the next topic you are listening? Describe a time you made a promise to someone. Firstly, you have to imagine whom did you make the promise to. Secondly, what the promise was. Thirdly, why you made the promise. And fourth is, was the promise easy to achieve? Many people are pretty casual about making promises, and it really irritates me when people make promises or commitments they have no intention to keep. I don't make promises easily, but if I do, I try my best to fulfill them. Last year, During the corona virus lockdown, my parents made me promise that I wouldn't leave the house unnecessarily till the vaccine is released. My paternal grandparents live paternal grandparents live with us and they lie in the high risk category because of their age. Moreover, my grandmother is also diabetic, so all of us were really worried about my grandparents catching the virus. I'm a very social person, and before the corona days, I used to spend at least 2 to 3 hours with my friends every day. I also spend a lot of time with my grandparents. In fact, sometimes I sleep on the couch in their room. My parents were worried that I might catch the virus if I spend too much time outdoors and pass it on to my grandparents. So I promised my parents that I would not loiter around and spend time indoors. It was very hard in the beginning. I felt so bored as I couldn't meet my friends. In fact, in the first few days, the only time I left the house was to get groceries. I was in contact with my friends on the phone and used to pass the time by talking for hours on the phone. However, within 2 3 days, I ran out of things to talk about. Every day was the same. I was also angry at my parents for making me promise to not leave the house. But in a few days, I came to know that one of my friends had caught the virus. From that day onwards, I stopped complaining. Things also became a bit easier as I developed some new habit or hobbies like reading the news and playing indoor games like chess and carom board with my grandparents. It's been nearly 10 months since I made the promise, and I am glad I made the promise. In fact, I think I am still enjoying the company of my grandparents today because of that promise. So these are the questions related to that you can generalize before writing, reading, speaking, listening, any person, place and thing. Some relevant questions that we can discuss here. One is, generally speaking, do Indian parents make promises to children? Then positively you are to think, yes, Indian parents often make promises to their children. The promise mainly involves buying new toys or expensive gifts for them, or taking them on vacation if they score good marks in exams or behave well. Do children also make promises to their parents? Here you also positively say yes, children also make promises to their parents that they will study and not waste their time. They also promise to behave well in the absence of parents. Thirdly, third question that you can create, generate and operate very easily in your mind while thinking about describing a time you made a promise to someone. Do most people fulfill their promises? Unfortunately, many people in India make promises that they know they can't fulfill or can't keep. For example, to meet at a particular time. How do you feel when others break their promises? It annoys me when people break their promises. In fact, in India, promises are frequently made and seldom kept. I believe that we should not make promises that we cannot keep. We should think before we make promises. So these topics that we have discussed, that is totally based upon psychological and philosophical point of view. Dear friends, your presence is really praiseworthy, admirable and appreciable today in learning classes of English. May God bless all of us. Thank you. Nice to see all of you. Nice to talk.